Ladies and gentlemen, it's already Thursday, October 19, 2017. The whole house of cards on Hollywood pedophilia is now breaking in mainstream news. The whole house of cards on how the Clintons, but also the leadership of the Democratic Party were on the Russian payroll. It's all collapsing. This is going to be an incredibly important transmission. Let's kick it off with the one, the only, John Bowne.
With the real power elite colluding with the Russians, please stand up. The mainstream media is being forced to accept a heavily documented investigation into Russian corruption leading to Bill and Hillary Clinton. The Hill reports, before the Obama administration approved a controversial deal in 2010, giving Moscow control of a large swath of American uranium, the FBI had gathered substantial evidence that Russian nuclear industry officials were engaged in bribery, kickbacks, extortion, and money laundering designed to grow Vladimir Putin's atomic energy business inside the United States, according to government documents and interviews. Obama's FBI under Mueller and then Comey, together with the Justice Department under Rod Rosenstein, essentially buried an investigation into Vadim Mikurin, the Russian negotiating the padded no-bid contracts after the Obama administration alerted Congress by approving of the selling off of 20% of the United States uranium supply via Uranium One to Rosatom, and then allowed the same company, Rosatom, to sell the uranium in the United States while Bill Clinton received hundreds of thousands of dollars in speaking fees for Russian audiences interested in the uranium deal, all under the watch of Hillary Clinton while she served as Secretary of State.
We have the documents, we have the witnesses, we have the FBI reports that were given to Mueller and then to Comey that were completely and totally killed because Mueller's law firm and companies that Mueller sits on the boards of are heavily invested with state-run mining and energy companies and gas companies and, wait for it, defense companies in Russia, and it's in the FBI investigation. Hillary, as the Secretary of State, was signing waivers.
Reports suggest that the Clinton Foundation received millions of dollars from interested parties in the transaction. Bill Clinton received $500,000 for a speech in Moscow, June 2010, from the Russian government-aligned bank. The same month as the speech, Russia began the uranium acquisition process. This fact pattern raises serious concerns about improper political influence on the process by the previous by the Clintons during the Obama administration. Has the Justice Department fully investigated whether the Russians compromised the Obama administration's decisions to smooth the way for transactions? And if not, why not?
Mr. Chairman, we're working hard to maintain discipline in the department. It wouldn't be appropriate for me to comment on any ongoing investigation.
The Department of Justice today, under President Trump, Attorney General Sessions, could tomorrow come back and say we are removing this gag order, that we believe that there's a compelling national interest to know. We want this individual to testify before Congress. We want the public to know exactly what went on. So this is not something that's unbreakable, but it just simply takes a request from the Department of Justice to remove that gag order. If that gag order is not removed, I think it's doubtful this businessman's going to want to go public because he doesn't want to be put in legal jeopardy.
Mikurin's use of extortion and bribery is well documented. Regardless, the Hill reports the lack of fanfare left many key players in Washington with no inkling that a major Russian nuclear corruption scheme with serious national security implications had been uncovered. On December 15, 2015, the Justice Department put out a release stating that Mikurin, a former Russian official residing in Maryland, was sentenced today to 48 months in prison and ordered to forfeit more than $2.1 million. No more fumbling around for the drain on the swamp. If there is any justice, congressional investigations and prosecution need to immediately follow up on all of this evidence.
The FBI now has evidence that Russia for years has been doing this, and they're reporting the FBI has evidence that literally they used bribery to gain control over America's uranium industry, all while the Obama administration did nothing. And the Clintons benefited to the tune of nearly $145 million. You want a real Russia collusion story? We've got it.
John Bowne reporting for Infowars.com.
It's the broadcasts that I know are particularly historical and important, where I really attempt before we go live to just calm down and slow down before I turn into the Tasmanian devil from Texas. Because anybody that's been listening for even a decade or 20 years knows I can be very negative. But people also know that I'm not going to tell you that we're winning if we're not winning. I'm not going to tell you that we're having spectacular victories by the day against the globalists unless it's really happening. Now, that said, I got a really good feeling and I got a really bad feeling. Best of times, worst of times. The world's a paradox because the globalists are going to strike back, and they're going to strike back hard, and they've been striking back. But nevertheless, they are being routed. And I'm going to tell you who is the main icebreaker going through their lies. His name is Donald John Trump, and he's from New York City. And I just love the fact that the globalists took over one of the most American cities, pure Americana, and turned it into a globalist command base. But that's the way God works. That city of corrupt globalism is now being retaken. Out of that Babylon comes a great man of change and courage who is the catalyst for devastating victories right now. I mean, Trump is leveling the playing field. He is doing two-way streets with China. He's taking care of American workers, our veterans. It's incredible. But everything Trump's strong on, they try to make his weakness. That's why he tries to get charities to give $25,000 to $50,000 to every veteran that's killed in combat, every active duty soldier, sailor, Marine, member of the Air Force. And that's why he tries to personally visit them or give them multiple phone calls. And because that's one of his big strengths, that he personally gives money or gets a charity to give money, they make it his weakness. That's what this whole scandal is with the few dead soldiers that happen to have Democrat Party mothers who are political activists. And you just look at how they take his strength and they try to turn it into a weakness. And then my old friend Rick Linkletter said, you know, I don't know why Alex, who's against the power structure and against elites, is suddenly so for Trump. In a big article, interview he did for BuzzFeed about his new film, Last Flag Standing. Again, I'm teleprompter free. I'm going from memory on the name of the film. And what are you talking about? Hollywood, mainstream media, Silicon Valley, the big tech companies, the communist Chinese, the EU. Who isn't against our president? And who isn't against the American people? And who doesn't want to dominate and bully us into submission and sell off our jobs and our secrets and our ingenuity? You've got the whole globalist world trying to force us into TPP that would have transferred our sovereignty into a secret offshore combine. And Trump killed it the first week in office, doing what he said he'd do, and transferred the power back to Congress. The reason he could do that is Obama had done all these unconstitutional things through executive power, and nobody challenged him. So Trump's just killing it all with executive power. And they're harassing his tenants. They're harassing his members. They're harassing his family. They're harassing everyone he knows. They're basically suing thousands of people associated with him. They are, including yours truly and Roger Stone and everybody else, they are coming after us because they'd stolen this country through fraud. And they're a bunch of parasites feeding on poor people and feeding on third world populations. And if Trump can deliver the American dream again, then their collectivism can't compete with that, and it's game over. Just look at drudgereport.com. Bloomberg has to admit. Google Slayer. Trump picks antitrust Simons for FTC, a lawyer known for busting trust. That is exactly what this country needs, and that's exactly what Mother Jones 100 years ago would have told you was needed, but not the Mother Jones of today. That's a Goldman Sachs financed, George Soros controlled fake leftist group. Teddy Roosevelt is the type of guy who would have called for this. You got Google with 90% control over search and a bunch of other functions, and we got their executives on video admitting their search is fake now, and the people have to pay for what they get, and that they restrict populists, conservatives, libertarians, and even the president. And the head of Twitter says, we might ban the president off Twitter. You can have Twitter accounts dedicated to killing the president and Twitter accounts dedicated to bankrupting InfoWars, but you can't have the president speak out and call Comey a liar 2 months ago, saying he ordered the investigation to stop but claimed it was still ongoing against Hillary. The memo came out 2 days ago. The president was correct. Remember when they looked at Conway and they said, how do you know he was being spied on? How does he know? She goes, he's the president. He knows things you don't know. And, of course, it all came out just like he said. Gee, think the president can go look and see if he was spied on? But I don't need the president to do it. I was sent the federal documents. You notice the media didn't touch that. It was Trump's private phone numbers at his resorts in Florida and New Jersey and New York. I mean, and I knew they were his numbers because I had 2 of them. They've changed the number. I had the private number to his apartment in Mar-a-Lago to give him a call sometime. Trump likes it if you just try to call him. The media, inside baseball, knows that. That's how they're able to get through to him as well. He sits there at night still just answering a switchboard number. Citizens actually get the president sometimes. They're trying to stop him doing that, but he's a guy that runs hundreds of towers and resorts and golf courses. He's all about what do the people want? What do they do? If the food isn't good at a resort, he throws a fit. If the right marble isn't put in, he throws a fit. He's OCD about that, folks, and he doesn't like seeing America get run into the ground, and they don't know what to do. So he's not perfect. He gets bad advice sometimes, but you know a man by his enemies. They hate his guts because he's standing up for what's right. Now, when we come back, start your engines, because mainstream news is having to report, major publications like The Week and others, that the major pedophile scandal in Hollywood is the next level to break. Well, exactly as we told you months ago. And they talk about the award-winning film An Open Secret that's interviewed the witnesses and stars who were abused as children. They're going to be in studio tomorrow. Notice that mainstream news has got their ear to the ground. They knew we were about to break this tomorrow with them in studio. So notice it's now in major mainstream publications today. And that's our job, forcing them to report. Hollywood sex abuse film An Open Secret released online. It's been award-winning, been very popular the last year. It's been released online. We're going to play big excerpts of it tomorrow with the director, the producers, and more. They're arriving today in studio. Boom. Get ready for that. Corey Feldman hints at naming Hollywood pedophiles. We've been in talks to get him on the broadcast. Directly, reportedly raped by these people. So that's all coming up. Then, the big news. We're going to get into the new Trump nominee to head up the Federal Trade Commission, who's going to go after the big mega corporations like Bezos of Amazon and his monopoly and all the rest of these people. Google, you name it. Get ready. And we have fewest job claims since 73, shows U.S. job market firm as the globalists panic, try to cause a stock market crash. That's all coming up as well today. And then the big shoe to drop, Russiagate. It's worse than we even said, but we were on target. It's just deeper and nastier. The entire Democratic Party at the top's involved. Ladies and gentlemen, I do not have words to describe to you intellectually what I'm looking at right now and spiritually how I'm feeling. I feel really good, but I also know the enemy is rallying against humanity right now and is in the process of preparing to strike back. So watch your six, ladies and gentlemen. I knew that Robert Mueller had delivered uranium in 2008 2015 to the Russians illegally for Hillary. I knew that they had gotten hundreds of millions of dollars into companies that Robert Mueller is on the board of and that Mueller has worked for via his law firm. I knew that Comey was his minion. I knew that Mueller basically is still the head of the FBI to a great extent and put major stay-behind networks in management positions who were basically part of the Clinton Foundation crime machine. And we had guest after guest on covering all of that information. But now to see it in the House and Senate Judiciary Committees, to now see the Attorney General say Hillary's being criminally investigated, to now see the lawyer for FBI operatives and FBI informants who were in Russia and in Europe and in D.C. and in New York witnessing the Democrats with photos and documents and videos of them sitting around. You know, like all the famous FBI videos you've seen where it's in the briefcase and they're sitting around doing arms deals? Same thing. High-level Democrats on video. That's the big breaking news on Infowars.com right now from Dr. Corsi, putting all the information together. That this entire investigation started back in 2011, was finally killed in 2015, and that despite the fact that all that came out, they still allowed the Uranium One deal to transfer upwards of 30% of our highest quality uranium to the Russians. There's the headline on Infowars.com. Documents show other Democrats, not just Clintons, on Russian payroll. Uranium One scandal threatens to bring down the entire Democratic Party. It's exactly what Roger Stone said in January of 2016 here on the air. And he was just doing the research himself from the Panama Papers that had come out a month before and from his sources in D.C. that confirmed it. And that woman who exposed it a year and a half ago, her car blew up. She died 4 days ago in Panama. Investigative journalist with major international syndicates, dead, murdered. Her car was blown in pieces up to 50 yards away, just like Michael Hastings. But in California, they said it wasn't a car bomb, even though it was. With her, they said, yeah, it's a car bomb. And, of course, that was for Panama Papers. She was in Malta. Malta car bomb kills Panama Papers journalist. So, ladies and gentlemen, just think about how massive this information is and the courage of the people getting it out. And now you know why, starting last January, Roger Stone was doing, no exaggeration, because he was coming and visiting us here. He would do 15, 20 interviews a day. You couldn't go to dinner with him. He'd duck out and do 10-minute interviews out in the parking lot of a steakhouse. Then he'd take a call from the president candidate at the time. I mean, it was pretty amazing. Here, talk to Trump. But what's incredible is that that's when they went, Roger Stone's a Russian agent. Even though in the 80s, Russians tried to contact him about secrets, and he helped the FBI round up a bunch of Russians and U.S. citizens who were indicted and convicted. Roger Stone came up under Nixon, the famous anti-communist, and the Red Scare, and Senator McCarthy. Roger Stone was around way back then. He's been doing this since he was 18 years old, the opposite of a communist. So what do you do when an old red hunter is on your Democratic Party butt? What do you do when a red hunter is on your tail? The bane of the Democratic Party since 1917. The Republicans have been on them for working with communists and working with the Russians. What are you going to do when people like Vice President Richard Nixon are on your tail? And don't forget, he was the vice president for Eisenhower, then came back, became president. What are you going to do when Nixon's later best friend, Roger Stone, the red hunter, is on your butt? Roger Stone's a red. Everybody's a red. Remember when they started saying on television, Tucker Carlson, when he doubted the official fake story about Russiagate? They said to Tucker Carlson, you better watch it. You're working for the Kremlin. You're on his payroll. And, of course, if you know anything about Tucker Carlson's blue blood East Coast family, they're patriots. His dad was the head of Voice of America. You don't just think he was in the CIA, do you? And the rest of his family. And Tucker Carlson said, you better watch it right there. And that's why they started saying, I'm a Russian agent. And remember Rand Paul? We ought to get all these clips together. Rand Paul! McCain said on the floor of the Senate is a Russian agent being paid by Vladimir Putin. Total defamation, total slander, total desperate libel. And if you wonder why they're so desperate, ladies and gentlemen, it's because John McCain, it turned out, was involved with banks on the Russian payroll. And it turns out Hillary and both Podesta brothers and a bunch of the Democratic Party and Dr. Jerome Corsi's article on Infowars.com were in banks and in brokerage firms and in energy companies and in military companies. And Hillary was the head of the State Department for most of those 8 years, and she was transferring everything out of the country because she could sign waivers and claim it was legal, but she kept it secret. And that's why they are in total and complete panic mode in D.C. right now, and that's why they have the whole media brand Trump and the Republicans and all of the rest of the resistance as Russian agents, because it's just like in an old spy movie. When you catch one spy, they go, no, they're the spies. It's them. It's them. With no proof. But then when Roger started exposing it and was going to testify, he got shot in the back with a polonium dart, little gelatin darts that dissolve. But it deflected. It cut his back real bad in his backyard. It hit him in his backyard, got real sick 2 days later, and they tested it was polonium. And then a few weeks later, he's going to testify. They T-bone his car and almost kill him. And in some armored vehicle, races off. Because they wanted to say it was all Roger Stone so that a dead man couldn't resist them and a dead man couldn't speak out. So let me tell you something. They've been failing on every front. When we come back, we're going to play these clips where the lawyers for the informants and the rest of it are getting ready to testify to Congress, and they are in full panic mode. Please remember to support the broadcast. We have a bunch of specials that are about to end. Brain Force, the amazing high-quality nootropic. 50% off right now. That's about to end. Anthroplex, it's basically the dry capsule form of Super Male Vitality. It's 50% off. It's been sold out for a while, but I want you to try it and see how great it is. InfoWarsLive.com or 888-253-3139. Ladies and gentlemen, we now know why the Democrats were so desperate going back in early 2016, claiming that Tucker Carlson, myself, Senator Rand Paul, Roger Stone, Donald Trump, his whole family were basically Russian agents. It's because that's what they were fearing most, because there had been criminal investigations going on in 2011 to 2015 that Mueller and Comey had ordered killed. Now the informants, the FBI agents, they're all coming out. They're now having congressional hearings. And many experts agree this could take the Democratic Party, that's already just a coastal elite party, and extinct the party. This is so big, ladies and gentlemen, that it's hard to calculate. But that's why they're fighting for their lives, because they thought Hillary would get in. They thought the sellouts to Communist China, to Saudi Arabia, to the EU, to the Russians, they thought it would never be known because they'd be in charge. Well, now, ladies and gentlemen, they are blaming their enemies for what they've done. That old tactic, and it's been proven. Mueller delivering uranium illegally as a bag man to the KGB, FSB. This is beyond a James Bond movie, and it's all coming out. Everything we told you a year ago, but more. All the same reports, but then the rest of the story. And I can't even believe how brazen it was. The Clinton Foundation. So let's go ahead and go to a few of these clips, because this is threatening to bring down their whole system. This is Grassley, an Iowa Republican, asked Victoria Tosing, the lawyer representing a former FBI informant, to allow her client, who says he worked as a voluntary informant of the FBI, to be allowed to testify about the investigation into Uranium One that got killed. Let's go ahead and play a clip of that report with reporter Ms. Carter.
Attorney Victoria Tunsi. She's representing that FBI informant at the center of this latest Clinton Foundation scandal. I'll start with you, Victoria. This is your client. He wanted to tell Congress about all of the bribery, all of the scheming, all of the kickbacks, all of the corruption. He had the information. He wanted to tell a story. What happened?
Well, when he started working for the FBI in 2009, they had him sign what's called an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement. They never gave him a copy of it, and when he went public in 2016, way after all this case stuff was done, the Justice Department under Loretta Lynch called him and threatened him with his freedom if he violated the NDA. Now, I've never heard of an NDA that had a criminal penalty for violation, but they won't show him a copy of it. So we decided to go to the members of Congress and the Senate, and I have breaking news for you, Sean. While I was in makeup, I got a letter from Chairman Grassley asking my client to give them information. Now, what this does is set up a constitutional issue, because the executive branch cannot say to someone, don't you give information to the legislature. So it'll be a very interesting thing to see how the Justice Department responds.
So they have the power to lift that NDA. That would be amazing.
And again, that's not even a national security letter. It's an NDAA, and those don't cover criminal activities. Just like whistleblowing. Even for classified stuff, if people are doing illegal stuff, you bring it to Congress. The problem is when they do, then deep state SWAT team raids them, like Bill Binney and many others that this has happened to. Let's go to the clip now. FBI uncovered Russian nuclear kickbacks months before the Uranium One deal passed. So the FBI investigation gets killed, even though it's under investigation, with the payoffs, money to the Podestas, to Hillary, to other Democrats. The FBI head kills it. The Justice Department kills it. They let the deal go through to give 1/3 of our uranium, and then witnesses to it get threatened with jail if they talk to Congress. Here it is.
An issue before an agency called CFIUS, alphabet soup, but that is the agency that decides whether foreign governments may buy U.S. companies or product. The Russian entity wanted to buy a company that had 20% of the American uranium. It's called Uranium One, was the name of the company. And that issue was before CFIUS. They were supposed to decide whether there was an okay deal and whether there was any corruption or any kind of problems or national security issues regarding this purchase.
And this was at the same time, correct, or during the same time that your client was already providing information to the FBI.
This is Sarah Carter.
My client had been providing information for a couple of years before this really got voted on by CFIUS. And here's the rub. High-ranking law enforcement officials in the Obama administration knew that there was corruption in this company. And that information about the corruption in this Russian entity never made it to CFIUS, evidently because CFIUS authorized the purchase in October of 2010.
That's a Cicero with the great reporter Sarah Carter. Now, I don't want to toot our horn, but I want people to know the facts here. If you go back 4.5 years ago, Tosh Plumlee, now retired CIA contractor, came on this broadcast and he said, Alex, Fast and Furious, Benghazi, all of it is about shipping arms to rebels for the Libya and now Syria war. And he had that from the U.S. Army, from NATO, and from others in the Middle East. And there it is from October 2014. Now that's the third interview. Benghazi whistleblower tells all. He got Justice Department threats, you name it. And we lay out that Hillary, as Secretary of State, had the power to sign secret orders circumventing federal law because of a previous law that you could ship prohibited weapons or materials to states where it was prohibited or to groups where it was prohibited if she signed the letters. So you would give money as a terrorist group or a foreign government or a corporation to the Clinton Foundation. We have the emails. Then they within usually a few days, usually it was about $1 million or more, just to meet with Hillary was a couple $100,000, or to have her be given your email or request. So first you give a couple $100,000 just to have her agree to talk to you. Then you give $1 million asking for what you want, and almost always you got it. Didn't matter if it was anti-tank missiles, anti-aircraft missiles, didn't matter what it was. And if you paid enough, they would have it. Then the orders of the State Department, which controls the Pentagon to a great extent, and the CIA, they would then deliver that to you on a C-130. And Tosh Plumlee took parts in those flights. And he risked his life to tell you. Now, he only knew part of it. Very, very famous, by the way. He was in the Bay of Pigs. But before that, he was flying arms to Fidel Castro. This is in congressional hearings. He was in the Frank Church Committee. He was in the Iran-Contra Committee. You say, well, how was he still in the CIA? Well, there's dark hats and white hats. And because he's a whistleblower, he was protected. And until 3 years ago, still flying flights. I mean, he used to come on the show leading groups of C-130s as the head, you know, as Commodore of the skies. 15 C-130s lined up behind him, about to fly to wherever. And he'd say, hold on, Alex, I got to tell him to wait 10 minutes. I'm turning the engines off. I got my time zones. And then, I got 15 minutes for you. I mean, there's interviews where he's on the tarmac flying whatever it is. And then on the air saying, we're flying high-impact kinetic weapons to the jihadis, and nobody likes it. I'm not going to say I'm doing it, but I've done it. I'm on board an aircraft right now, and we're really pissed about this, Alex. And I don't care if they kill me, I'm going to tell you. We need him on now. I only say that because that busy producers are great, but I've kind of lately been running around saying Tosh Plumley, because let me tell you, he is the one that broke it all, and we stuck our necks out, and now everything you're hearing about Hillary and exporting things to the State Department and those waivers, that is directly from the CIA and the patriots in the CIA to Tosh Plumley. They said, you're willing to get killed? You go ahead and you do it. But that is, I'm so proud of the fact he's a Texan. So there you go. Now, briefly, we're ending specials in the next few days that are the biggest ever on Brain Force, 20% more now. Brain Force Plus, an amazing nootropic, just great for the mind, energy, stamina, but in a natural way. It's $19.96. Leading competitors that have about the same stuff that are like $70. Normally at $39 is a great deal. $19.96, that's about to end. We've got the big specials as well and a bunch of other high-quality products like Anthroplex for males and females. Amazing what it's done for me personally. That's 50% off as well. Please support us because we are the tip of the spear. There's a reason when you get internal videos of top YouTube executives, directors of major operations, that they say number one enemy is Alex Jones. We must shut him down. And it's not Alex Jones. It's that the Tosh Plumleys and the people like that come on this broadcast 4.5 years ago and laid out everything about Benghazi, specifically how they did it, why they killed the people, how they shipped the weapons, the anti-tank weapons, the anti-aircraft weapons out of there to Syria, how that war was coming, how Hillary quarterbacked the operation. And reportedly the ambassador wouldn't go along with it, so they let him come and kill him. That's why they told him, evacuate the bases, and some of the folks didn't get the message to evacuate, so they were there and took on 300, 400 jihadis, killing most of them. Oh, and too bad for the globalist. 4 people survived. You see? But even before that happened, they were already flying into the jihadis' weapons. And the C-130s would land and see people with Al-Qaeda flags. This was first here. And then later, Rand Paul talked about it. Ted Cruz, to his credit, said we're not Al-Qaeda's Air Force. And all of that broke. And John McCain, remember, he was over in the Middle East meeting with the, quote, leaders of the rebels who were Al-Qaeda. So then when the public woke up to that 4 years ago, they changed the name to ISIS, which is just the name of the Islamic State to confuse the public that they wanted to make out of Syria, part of Syria and part of Iraq, part of eastern Syria, western Iraq. And our military and good people in the deep state said no to that plan, and 4.5 years ago, General Dempsey went and met with Obama and said, we are not going to have a military strike from the air on Syria. We're going to work with the Russians to contain the civil war and end it, and then Assad will step down after elections in the future when the war is over. Now you see Trump putting pressure on Iran, saying, we made a deal with you and the Russians 4.5 years ago, our military did, bypassing Obama. You're now going to pull out of there, and we're going to have elections, and Assad's going to step down. We're going to put sanctions on you, and if you want to attack our troops in Syria, that's what all this really is, we're going to go to war with you. We made a deal with you, the American people and the folks that put Trump in from the good side of the deep state. You're going to follow that agreement. No more backstabbing, no more weasel stuff. If Gaddafi would have made a deal 10 years ago like he did with Obama, to coming out of the cold and work with the West, Trump wouldn't have double-crossed him. See, America used to be known until about the mid-'60s. If we made a deal with you, we followed it. Now we cheat you on the deal, and we've lost our soft power. Now, what does Joe Biden hope to do as the Russiagate comes out? And as a Democratic, his son in Ukraine got control of a $4 billion a year company that controls the Russian gas coming in. They jack up the prices and then rob Europe. The profits of the company have gone off the charts. He personally, reportedly, is getting hundreds of millions of dollars a year. His son, by the way, just got out of college a few years ago and is now a viceroy sitting on the Russian gas that has to go through Ukraine into Eastern and Western Europe. So they've seized control of the switching pipes and the conduits that Ukraine had that come out of Russia. And what's he say? We're going to play the video. Biden urges Obama holdovers to stay put. They all call me all the time. I say, please stay, please stay. What do you think Eric Holder did and Loretta Lynch and Robert Mueller and James Comey? They all put stay-behind networks in. And here he is speaking with Ohio Governor John Kasich, the University of Delaware. Here's the clip of them admittedly staying. We're staying in government. We're going to overthrow Trump. We're never going to stop. And here's an article exclusive to newswars.com by Dan Lyman. Does a great job. Deep State making U.S. a failed state. Top Judicial Watch investigator sounds alarm. Deep State is a giant socialist organ protecting itself, he said. It's a cancer. McCain says American patriotism is bad this week. Now we've got Biden urging people to stay put, to resist, to not follow orders, to not do what you're supposed to do, to block making America great again. Let's play that clip. Here is Joe Biden, who still thinks he's the vice president.
When someone would yell at a State of the Union, liar, these are basic norms. There's a reason why we have certain basic social norms.
Hit pause. They've got people shooting congressmen. They've got Democratic strategists on TV saying hunt Republicans. They've got Hollywood saying kill Trump. They've got Phil Mudd, former deputy director of the CIA and deputy director of the FBI, put in by Comey, and Mueller is a Mueller minion. Goes Mueller, Comey, then Mudd, saying we're going to kill the president soon. And then you say someone's saying Obamacare doesn't cover illegal aliens when it was in the bill, and the congressman says you lie, and you sit up there about basic norms. We have basic norms. We're going to sexualize your 3-year-olds and teach them how to be sexually screwed up, and we're going to ship HIV blood all over the country and give that to you, and hepatitis. And we're going to tell you 2 + 2 = 5, and we're going to get rid of our sovereignty and treat our veterans like crap and have the VA cut their funding off and have the Thomas computer at IBM decide who gets health care and who doesn't as a death panel. They're now using Thomas computers, the National Health Service in England. And if you were ever a smoker, you don't get any surgery or health care now. Could have been 20 years ago. If you're a drinker, you don't get any surgery. But Thomas, the little Nazi IBM computer, named after a Nazi, can't make that up, literally, with all this run by a former Nazi collaborator who the ADL gives awards to, you can't make this up. And he's going to tell us, back it up. So let's start from the beginning again. He's going to tell us, folks, about norms. Here, I'm going to try to shut up during this. Just everything he says is a lie. Let's hear from this lying sack of anti-American parasitic garbage about how we need decorum and lay down while these people bankrupt the country. Here it is.
When someone would yell at a State of the Union, liar.
Oh, my gosh.
These are basic norms. There's a reason why.
I'm sorry, pause again. It took me 3.5 hours to get into the inauguration because there were Democrats, it's all on video, beating up men, women, and children outside and assaulting everyone. The next day, they had their George Soros Women's March led by Linda Sarsour, the admitted jihadi Islamicist Palestinian activists with half her family in prison in the Middle East for their activities. You could all go have your demonstration, couldn't you? But we couldn't go see our president inaugurated because you're a bunch of thugs. Play the clip about decorum. Here it is.
Norms. They're the arbiter of how we work together.
Oh.
So the thing that I find the most debilitating about what's going on now is the destruction of these norms, and it's generating chaos. It's generating chaos internally.
You're trying to generate chaos.
I don't want to see the chief of staff quit. I don't want to see the Secretary of Defense or the Secretary of State quit. I don't want all the people who are in our administration who are still there. They call me all the time. I say, please stay. Please stay.
Please, parasites.
There has to be some competence.
We're going to win.
But again, it's not even about the issues. It's about the norms. I'll conclude by saying,
that's enough.
You don't say.
That's enough of that piece of garbage. He's all nice. We're being so friendly when we hit people in the head with bike locks and we call for violence and we have our surrogates say all whites are inherently evil and no white day at major colleges. And while we push all this stuff and while we push war and say we're the resistance and say we're going to kill the president and have all of our minions say it. And then, see, they want us to get calm again. Just like Ted Bundy. The serial killer would, just say, it's going to be okay. Just put the handcuffs on. I'm not going to kill you. Just put the gag on. And as soon as they did that, he'd say, you're so stupid. I'm going to torture you to death for weeks, whore. I'm going to bite chunks out of your body. You're such a dumb idiot. And then he's just saying, settle down. Just get in the basement. Just put the handcuffs on. He's standing there in a room without a weapon. He says, put the handcuffs on. You're like, yes, master. Let me put the handcuffs on. And Biden's down. Come down here. I'm going to strap you onto this bloody gurney. Never mind the dirty clothes and, that woman hanging on a meat hook right there. And just be normal, talk like I talk, be politically correct, submit, be passive, because I'm going to hurt you politically bad. I'm going to do the equivalent of torture you for 6 months and rip your teeth out with pliers. And I'm going to tell you how great it is while I do it. These are the monstrous pig demons we're dealing with. And we see them. We're awake. We're not going back to sleep, jerk. Now, remember, folks, when you spread the articles, the videos, the links to newswars.com, the live feed links on Facebook, Google, Twitter, 20-plus people can use each membership at prisonplanet.tv. I want to thank you all for supporting that. It helps spread the word and how we get in the face of these folks that are already so scared of us. So thank you all for your support. And don't forget, we've got really big specials ending on Brain Force, 50% off, and a lot more at InfoWarsStore.com. So please financially support us. But whatever you do, spread the word. The revolution's happening now, and we are the resistance of the globalists, and we're winning. Hour number 2 straight ahead, baby!